Back to follow-up segment time. A couple of new developments in the Penn State child molestation scandal. Fired head coach Joe Paterno apparently transferred ownership of his home to his wife last summer for $1. Some believe that indicates he knew a scandal was about to erupt. Coach Paterno's lawyer denies that. Also, the assistant football coach who said he saw Jerry Sandusky molest a little boy in the locker room shower apparently emailed a friend saying he stopped that activity. He actually stopped it himself. But that could contradict sworn grand jury testimony by him. Joining us now from Los Angeles, attorney Tom Mesereau, who successfully defended Michael Jackson against child molestation charges back in 2005. Counselor, do you see any similarities in the two cases?
Yes, I do. In both cases, you've had a grand jury indictment. In both cases, grand jury information has been handed to the media. And remember, in a grand jury proceeding, there's no judge and no defense attorney and no cross-examination. So everything looks stacked against the defendant. And in both cases, the media has swarmed all over that grand jury indictment and whatever information they've gotten, and they basically convicted the defendant before the defendant has a chance to even defend himself.
Now, isn't grand jury testimony supposed to be secret? I mean, you know, you rightly pointed out that in both the Jackson case and the Sandusky case, the media got a hold of this stuff. Is there something wrong with that?
Yes, there is. A grand jury proceeding is supposed to be secret. It's supposed to be closed. In the Jackson case, information was being leaked on almost a daily basis from that grand jury room. And remember, there's no defense lawyer in sight in a grand jury proceeding. Additionally, the first day of jury selection in the Jackson case, someone took all those transcripts and handed them to ABC. The judge had ordered they be suppressed and basically remain secret until they naturally arose during the course of the trial. So people were trying to prejudice everyone against us. I suspect that may be starting in this case, too.
Yeah, that's illegal, though, if anybody released grand jury testimony, correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, but you know how aggressively authorities are going to pursue that, I don't know. Now, the Jackson situation was basically one family, one kid against Jackson. That's what you had to contend with, correct?
That's not totally correct. It was one primary accuser, but in California, the prosecution can introduce evidence of other similar acts, and they introduced evidence that 5 other young men had been molested as well, and they tried to introduce evidence that more young men had been molested.
But they weren't called to testify, these kids, right?
I called them to testify. They put on evidence that 5 other young men were molested, and they did it primarily through third-party witnesses. However, one of them did testify, an alleged youth pastor who said that he had been tickled outside of his jeans. I started my case by calling 3 of those 5 as my first 3 witnesses, all of whom denied they'd been molested by Michael Jackson.
All right, so you quickly impeached that scenario. But in this scenario with Sandusky, there's a lot of kids, allegedly, a lot. And they're adults now. They're not children any longer. And there are 2 eyewitnesses, the football coach and a janitor. Now, the janitor is problematic because this is he's got dementia, he resides in a nursing home, he's incompetent to testify, so that's going to go out the window. But Mesereau, the football coach, I mean, he says he's an eyewitness. Now Jackson didn't have that against him, but Sandusky seems to have that against him.
No, Michael had witnesses against him. There were people who worked at Neverland who tried to claim that all of these other young men were molested. They got on the stand one after another saying they'd seen things in the shower, they'd seen things in a pool, they'd seen things in his room. The prosecution really tried to load up on us in the Jackson case. The problem was they all fell like a deck of cards when you started cross-examining them. They'd made conflicting statements, they tried to sell their stories, they had questionable pasts. I mean, it was just amazing to watch them fall like dominoes, and you never know if that'll happen in this case.
But you didn't have anybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, testify before a grand jury that he's witnessed a crime. McQuarrie testified in front of a grand jury. You didn't have anybody testifying in front of a grand jury. They actually witnessed Michael Jackson molesting anybody, did you?
Yes, we had the brother of the accuser claimed he had walked up a stairwell and had seen his brother being molested. We did have that.
Okay. So you impeached every single one of them, and that's what Sandusky's attorney is going to have to do. He's just going to have to knock them down one by one.
Well, remember, in the world of Michael Jackson, there were so many con artists and exploiters and imposters showing up trying to take advantage of Michael Jackson. He was the best-known celebrity, he was fabulously wealthy, and so many people would show up with their hands out trying to get something that we were able to not only knock over these witnesses one by one, but show a picture, a broader picture of exploitation. And it all worked in the end.
All right. Now, you heard Sandusky on television say that he showered with boys. I mean, that's pretty damning just in that regard, is it not?
It is, and I think his statement was very foolish. I don't know why his lawyer let him do that. I think it's going to hurt him in the long run. But, you know, technically speaking, showering with boys is not sex. I think what the defense has to do is draw a distinction and say, look, he's a big jock. You know, he hangs around, you know, football facilities. He hangs around with young people all the time, but never did he do anything sexual. It sounds like a tall order, but, you know, it might happen.
Would you take this case, Sandusky? Would you take his case?
You know, I have no interest in taking that case at the moment, but I do defend difficult cases. I believe in what criminal defense lawyers do. We make the system work. We defend people charged with crimes who everybody has vilified and attacked. And yes, it's a case I would consider taking, but it's not something that interests me right now. No.
You still believe Michael Jackson was innocent of all of this? Not guilty, but innocent.
I know he was 100% innocent. He wasn't just acquitted, he was vindicated. That jury said not guilty 14 times.
No, but you personally, now that Mr. Jackson is not here any longer, you personally, 100% convinced he was not a child molester?
I'm 100% convinced he was innocent and not a child molester. Yes, sir.
All right, Counselor. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Plenty more ahead as the factor moves along.